Everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Chasing 518. Last week you saw got the shock towers made. Since then I've gone ahead and made some little reinforcements that just help strengthen the design. I'm not going to plate over the top until I'm ready to fully weld all these out. Also, to minimize risk of these welds tearing off of this tube, this tab I made has some overhang, and I'll be hammering it around the tube and then welding it. That should give the tower bracket assembly more contact with the tube to minimize cracking and tearing off the tube. I did that front and rear. So now with those in good position, I've also got the bump cans inboarded. So with those things done, the only problem I'm having with the rear suspension is something I did earlier and I'm just not happy with. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So these are the front of the trailing arm. This clearance right here is what's turning out to be a problem. These are the TMR trailing arms with their anti-wobbles up front, and they provide 4 degrees of misalignment either way. So when I set these brackets up, I centered them. That way the arm could move 4 degrees either way. But what I didn't realize was the arms never move outboard. When the suspension goes up and down, the arms just travel up and down and they don't need any misalignment. But when you articulate, whichever tire droops, that trailing arm comes inboard. So as this side droops out, it swings in. So I need that misalignment on the inboard side. I don't need anything out here. So what I need to do is redo those mounts today and basically reposition the bolt or the pivot so that as it swings down, it doesn't bind up front. All the stuff I already made is just tack welded, because I've learned this 100 times already on this car, is don't final weld anything, because you get several steps down the road later and you realize you've got a problem. So I'm gonna mark the wheelbase so I don't lose any position or reference. So I'll mark that on the floor with a square, and then I'm gonna go ahead and disassemble one side, cut the tack welds, figure out how to remake it, and then if I like it, I'll make a second side. Set the camera up and let's get to work. The goal here is to, I've rolled the arm inward so that the shock is straight up and down with the arm, because before the arm was rolled straight up and down with the ground, and so the shock was coming in at an angle, which I thought would probably make it more prone to roll. And the other thing I've done is taken the bolt in here and use the anti-wobbles 4 degrees to get it as far over as I can. That way we've got a bigger window here so that the arm can swing, because as it droops down, it kind of swings over like that. So I needed to make sure I have the clearance in here for that. I've gone ahead and marked it with a Sharpie. I'm gonna try to put another brake in this existing bracket and see if I can get kind of the contact with that subframe tube that I'm looking for. I'll throw a few degrees in that, in the brake, and see if it helps or hurts. You saw me throw a brake right in here, but that was with this still attached. This isn't needed anymore. This is about to make contact with the chassis itself, but it's a little bit kind of off, so I need to trim this end and then none out here, basically parallel to this brake. I need to trim it, and then it's looking like this might work. This might work. Okay, I mocked it up off camera and I'm so happy with it. Everything looks so good, I don't even want to disturb it. I'm just gonna tack weld it and probably honestly go to sleep. Wake up tomorrow, see if I still love it. So now we got good even contact all the way down the bracket. My litmus test for this whole thing has been the socket that's gonna access the hardware has to slip on and off between these two tubes. So that seems to work good. I've decided to twist this thing to match the shock angle This plate doesn't lay flat on the tube, but I think I can easily, you know, I can weld up top, and then I could build some sort of, you know, overlay triangle or something to capture all that and give it as much surface weld area as I can. These trailing arm mounts on the chassis, they're gonna take a lot of rock hits. They're gonna see a lot of force with acceleration and braking, and you know, I don't want them to tear off, so I think you're gonna see that structure get heavily overlaid, heavily gusseted. That way it can just be a sledgehammer in the rocks, especially since they're outboard of the subframe now. Carlos's original design had them inboard, but my suspension tuner really wants the trailing arms outboard so that they're as straight as possible. He thinks I'll end up with a better desert machine. So I ended up moving them out, I don't know, whatever that is, 6 inches a piece from kind of where those tabs were to over here. So that puts it in this exposed area under the car. I gotta make sure they're strong, but I like that. I'll tack weld that one and then, yeah, sleep on it, I think. My theme of making adjustments to the pieces I had previously made, I'm gonna see if I can get this outside plate to work with some modification. I went ahead and put the bolt in from the inside so that I could just lay this on here easily. The first thing I identified was because the bolt's at a higher angle now, that this corner is hitting first. So I'm just gonna trim that a little bit and then just keep test fitting it over and over. See if I can reuse this thing. Modifying these outers just isn't gonna work. Those gaps are just way too big. I'll use this one as a template and I'll make up a new one. It's good progress for tonight. I'll still make this one video even though it's gonna take me a couple of days. We'll pick back up again another day off. Day 2 of this video. So I need to make new outboard trailing arm mounts, and I want to do something a little different than this one. This one I put the weld washer on the outside. I'm sure you guys can see that. And I want to change it up. I want to use the nut capture plates that I bought from Adam Dueling on the outside. So what I'm actually going to do is put the weld washer on the inside. But because on the inside is this big Delrin bushing that comes as part of the anti-wobble assembly, I don't want a small diameter weld washer. I want something that's larger like this. So I'm gonna make a couple of weld washers with a hole saw out of some 1/4 inch plate. So let's get started on that. Okay, these are my own 1/4 inch thick weld washers that will fit on the inside of the mount and support that Delrin wobble stopper better. So I'm gonna drop these in the acid bath and get rid of the mill scale, get them ready for welding, and then I'll start laying out the new outboard bracket on some beer box cardboard. Use the cardboard template I made off the original. There were a couple of dimensions I wanted to make a little bit bigger, so I accomplished that. It hangs down a little bit farther, and then it's got more material out in the distance. So now I start the tedious process of clearancing it for the chassis tubes. So I'm just gonna slowly install it, remove a little material, test fit it, remove more, test fit it, remove more until I got it. So here we go. Got the fitment how I like it. I'll end up boxing it in later with some plate like this. So now I'll take it off. I'll put the weld washer to the inside. Actually, I'll drop it in the acid first, knock all the mill scale off. I'm gonna put the weld washer on the inside and modify my template to match this one for the other side. Get this thing on there. So the benefit of the weld washer is you get double the material thickness without the weight of using like 1/2 inch plate. This is quarter, that's quarter. I'm using 1/4 inch plate under the car because this is going to be an impact zone against rocks and I want it strong. And also, you know, the trailing arm mount needs to be probably one of the strongest points on the chassis. Then you weld a 1/4 inch weld washer to it, so now I've got double the shear strength, so that hole won't oval out. These are made by Adam Dueling, and they call them nut capture plates. And what it does is it... How's my skin? Okay then. Let's use one of these. You can weld these on to whatever you're working on, and then when you drop the bolt in, it will keep the bolt from turning. So that all you have to do is tighten the nut. Kind of handy. Thought these would also be good under the car since rocks are going to be coming past it like this. It'll help keep the bolt head from getting smeared. And it's going to be hard to put a wrench on that anyway once a couple of rocks go across it and burr the edges. So I won't have to worry about that. It'll be sitting in there and kind of protected. So. In summary, I had to redo the outboard trailing mounts because I learned that as the arms go down, they swing inward, and I was basically I didn't have clearance for that. So I needed to make sure that through full articulation, the arms don't hit. So here's the original version that I had made. And you can see how tight it is right there. Here is the revision side. Okay, that's this week's progress video. Join me next week for whatever comes next. If you guys like this build series, please like. Hopefully you're already subscribed. If you have any questions, drop them below. I'm happy to talk about this thing. And if you're not already, please follow along at Ultra4Jones on Instagram. See you guys next week.